Hello and welcome back and howdy. My name is Jamie, and right now this is called Knit Until I Die. However, we are going to be changing that name to Hot Dog Crochet. Um, and the reason that I'm doing that real quick is that um, that is my new crochet business name. I am a crochet artist in southeastern Wyoming. I missed last week big time. So, what happened? Like, what was going on with me, right? Like, I'd been pretty consistent and then I just fell off the end of the world again. Well, last Saturday, I ended up in the ER and I was dehydrated, but it also showed some stuff on my lab work, basically pertaining to my liver and my kidneys that not necessarily horribly bad, but not where we want it. And with my cirrhosis, we really have to watch that stuff to make sure that I'm not having worse problems, because cirrhosis can be a silent issue for a lot of people. Um, the other issue that I've been dealing with is hepatic encephalopathy. Because my liver's not working as well as it should, it's not pulling all the toxins out of my blood, which means that those toxins have to go somewhere. And with me, they're going to my brain, which means I'm, of course, sleeping more than normal, having problems finding words, just my normal craziness. But it's been worse this past week. And although I really had intentions of going live on Sunday and doing a video for Wednesday, I just didn't have the energy for it. So I did a ton of sleeping. Even yesterday, I did a ton of sleeping. I didn't get up until like 9, and then I went back to bed at, I think, around 2 or 2:30 in the afternoon. Um, and I slept until like 9 o'clock and was up for a little bit. And then I slept again until about 6 this morning. So today's going pretty well. I am definitely feeling better today than I have pretty much all week long. So what I have planned for today is that I want to do I have a lot of yarn that I need to cake up so that I can get it going in projects. And then I also have a surprise yarn unbagging. They're not in boxes, they're in bags. But I found some yarn that yard for yard was less expensive than like Bernat yarn, but it's very, very similar to Bernat yarn on Amazon. But you get like 200 more yards than what you do out of one of the large Bernat blanket balls. And this is, well, I say the large, but this is probably more the regular size. They also have smaller balls that you can purchase, or skeins, whatever you want to call them. Personally, I like the bigger ones to work with, because you just get, it's easier to finish my projects. So that's what I'm going to be working on today. I did want to show you that I did actually accomplish one thing this week. And so made this. I've actually made others. They just are not sewn together yet, because we all know I don't like sewing. But this is really cool because it's it's called a mood octopus. So it has kind of like the happy face, and then the crying face. It's a relatively easy project, you just make 2 of the octopus and then you sew them together. There, I didn't do any stuffing in the pattern. There, it does call for stuffing. I found that I liked it better without stuffing. It's pretty thick between the 2 layers of, because this is all Bernat blanket, so it's pretty thick. It's the old school Bernat. But that's something that I made this week. Because I really didn't make a whole lot this week. Like I said, I have just really been exhausted. I'm going to set this to the side because I'm not getting anywhere with it. And we'll just start caking stuff up. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to cake up is the really dark purple. I need this for a project for my aunt that I told her I'd get done, and I haven't even started. So this is something I have to get done this week. Not that she put any time limits on it for me. I just want to get it done for her. And then we'll go from there. I do have quite a bit of yarn to cake up, and I've already caked up some of it. But let me show you the stuff that I got from Amazon first. So I did open one of the bags already. And this is the yellow that I got. It feels really soft. It does feel just slightly thinner than the old school Bernat, but it's a really nice color. And I got three different colors. Okay. So here's the green. This is a really nice deep forest green. I think the company that I bought it from is called Mestoon, Mestoon. But like I said, this is blanket yarn, very similar to the Bernat blanket. And I already have a plan for all of these. Okay. So this is the black. And none of them say the actual color on them, what the color is called. But I got yellow, green, and the dark green, and then the black. So, bees, and then frogs. Those are the big ideas for those. But that's the only yarn that I purchased. I want to try it and see how it works because, like I said, it comes with almost 200 yards more of yarn than what you get out of a big skein or a big ball of the Bernat blanket. What else? Oh, I did not tell you, but you're on a new table. I got a new table for doing my crochet projects and also doing my yarn winding and all of that. And so again, I went to Amazon, mainly because what I needed, I knew I wasn't going to find in town. Even though we're the capital city, it's really hard to find what I was looking for. So what I bought is basically a kitchen prep table that you would find like in a restaurant. It has a, what is it? I think it's like a 2-inch backsplash on the back. So the stuff that I have on the table, the yarn that I have on the table behind you guys on the computer won't go anywhere. It's not going to like go flying off the backside of the table. My old table technically was a not a table, it was a TV tray. Mom was helping me out there. I had gone through, I had used one until it basically fell apart because using the ball winder on it caused it to shake. And so the screws came out. And that was happening to the second one. And I didn't want to break a second TV tray. So I asked Mom, and we went ahead and got this kitchen prep table. I really like it because there's space. It has the top tier here, and then it has a second tier where I can keep my trash can and some other stuff, so it's not on the floor. And so it's easier to reach when I'm cutting my ends and stuff. I can get them into the trash can, because if it's on the floor and it's like over by mom's couch or whatever, I usually don't make it in the trash can. Remember to hydrate, because that was part of my problem last weekend. I was sleeping so much, I wasn't getting enough fluid intake. And so I'd gotten behind on my fluids, which is kind of rough, because on one hand, I needed the sleep because of the hepatic encephalopathy. But on the other hand, I needed the water too, and I wasn't getting that in. What else? I am so glad that I don't have a traditional job anymore, mainly because of how my body has been, because I have bad spells where I just am not awake much, which is what happened last week. And then I struggle with getting my medicines in like I'm supposed to and getting my water in. So it's pretty important for me to kind of watch that stuff and try and be aware. Although when I'm tired like that, I'm not always aware of like how dehydrated I'm getting or some of the other stuff that's going on. And mainly it's because my brain is not functioning right. That's part of what makes me like so tired and forgetful. And my brain just doesn't work right, because that day that I had to go to the ER, mom was out of town, and I had to call one of my cousins and ask him to take me to the ER. And he is so nice, guys. Absolutely love my Joel. He's just an angel. But he came and took me to the ER and was going to stay with me. But I told him that mom was coming, and he said that he could, come back when I was done and take me home. And I said, no, I'm fine. Mom's coming. And mom did come because she was down in Colorado. And so I eventually let her know what was going on, and that I was, going down to the hospital and stuff. Because if I couldn't get a hold of Joel, I'd called someone else to take me, but they were out of town too. And so it was like, if Joel couldn't take me, then I was going to have to call an ambulance. And I didn't want to have to do that. But if I couldn't find anybody, I was going to have to call, because I don't drive. And it was pretty important to get down there and get fluids going. And get that lab work and stuff done. We're going to do repeat lab work on Monday. And next week is going to be a heck of a week. So I am going to be filming Wednesday's video, I think today. So then I can have it all ready to go for you guys on Wednesday. But what else is going on? I have several doctor's appointments this week. And I have 2 different therapies and different things to try and kind of help with what's not going quite right now. Okay. Let's get the red going. I'm going to be making some Charlie the Crabs with the red. I have quite a bit of red to go through, and I have 2 different sizes. One is the regular blanket yarn, and then the other is the blanket yarn tiny. So I'm excited to get those going too. Like I said, I finally have my energy back, and I'm feeling more like myself. trying to keep the yarn behind you guys so it doesn't get stuck on the on that part, on the arm. I'm using my Stanwood ball winder. I got this off of Amazon. I also have the Stanwood, what's it called? Swift for hanks. Like if you buy yarn in a hank, usually that's like wool and stuff will come in hanks. That sometimes cotton too. You need that. Well, I guess you don't really need it, but it's helpful for winding balls with from a hank of yarn. You don't absolutely have to have it. It's just something that makes the process easier. But it's not, you know, like absolutely necessary. It's just something that for me makes things go a little bit easier. Hold on, guys. Let's see what I'm doing wrong here. I'm going to move my cup over here. That should help. Maybe it'll help. Okay, let's try this again. This one keeps knotting up on me. It'll get easier. What else? I was, of course, scrolling. Well, not of course, but I was doom scrolling this morning because I woke up so early. And I didn't want to take a shower at that time because I didn't want to wake up Mom. So I was doom scrolling, and I came across this ad for some hooks. And, you know, at first I was like, oh, that's awesome. If you know anything about me, I love purple, hence the backdrop. You know, this is actually more of a pink than a purple, but it looks more purple on camera right now. But I absolutely love purple. It's one of my favorite, well, it is my favorite color. I used to have a bike that was purple. I have backpacks that are purple. I have bags for my crochet and knitting that are purple. I don't know. I'm a purple girl. And I don't know why I'm talking about me being a purple girl, but anywho's. I got quite a knot going on right here. Let's see if we can keep going for a while. Okay, there I got to stop. So anywho's, last week was kind of hard. I think this week will be better. But like I said, I definitely have a lot of doctor's appointments, but I do plan on going live on Thursday evening. I have not quite nailed down the time yet, but it will be Thursday evening. And I plan on talking about like the business and why I'm changing things and all that good stuff. But yeah, that's coming up on Thursday. I think Wednesday's video, no, I know Wednesday's video is going to be of me making a plushie. Either it'll be the octopus that I showed you earlier, making more of those, or finishing up Anchor, or doing the project for my aunt. That has to get done this week because I did tell her I'd get it done. So I'm going to get that done this week. And then you guys will get to see it. And I think that that's probably the one that I'm going to do the video on. I think that it's, I really think that that's a well-written pattern. My only issue is sewing stuff on. Like everything else, you know, I'm getting better about weaving my ends in, but sewing stuff on is not my forte. But I'm working on it. I'm working on getting better. I've been watching some YouTube videos about, sewing for plushies and sewing crochet and just sewing in like hand sewing in general. I'm trying to get better at it. And I saw on the Celestial Homebodies, one of her, I think it was her last live, she talked about how, one of her hot takes was that to be a good crochet artist or a plushie maker, you have to be able to sew. And I don't think that you have to sew, because there's a lot of no-sew patterns out there, and you can turn a lot of patterns that are, sewing patterns into just crochet patterns where you crochet everything in and you don't actually sew anything on. Personally, I like doing that the best. However, there are some patterns out there that I want to do that you do have to sew. There's just no getting around it. You have to sew. And so I want to get better at that stuff. So I don't have to rely on other people to help me so much, like with my sewing, aka mom. Because I love mom and I'm glad that she helps me out with stuff, but it's not her job. It's, she doesn't have to do stuff like that. And I feel like I need to be better at that. Although I do make a lot of stuff that is basically no sew or very low sew. Let me see. This is something else that I made. This is a cow from a YouTube video. 1 Cent Crochet. Her name is Penny. Now I did alter it and I crocheted some of this on as we went. I did sew on the ears and the horns, but I sewed in or crocheted on our arms, and the next one that I did, I worked on crocheting in the muzzle or the snout, because like I said, I don't like to crochet. This is a very easy pattern though on her YouTube. She walks you step by step by step through all of it. Definitely a beginner project. I need to sew on some eyes for him. I have figured out that I do like at times the embroidered eyes better than it depends, because sometimes the where did I put them? Sometimes the safety eyes are really cool. So my aunt is getting a purple dragon. And these are the eyes that I'm going to use. I think that it's absolutely perfect. They're gorgeous and they're perfect. So those are going to go in her, she's getting a water dragon. And again, that's a free pattern off of Instagram. There are a lot of free patterns over there on Instagram. And I don't distribute them or anything like that, but I do make screenshots and then keep the screenshots under the name of the pattern. And I keep the designer's name and everything with it. Because it's hard for me, and it's hard on my phone to keep Instagram open all the time and try to remember where to go back to find the patterns that I like. And so I wanted to put them into Knit, which is an app where I keep all of my knitting patterns. And I have migrated over the last few weeks. I've migrated all of my crochet patterns, all of my knit patterns. Everything is now on the Knit app, because I had an issue with Google where a lot of my stuff got deleted and I couldn't retrieve it. They couldn't retrieve it. I have no idea where that stuff is at. So I saved it all into my knit app. That way, even if I have another Google flub up, I will be able to still have access to all of that. And I like the knit app. It's easy to use. It's easy to categorize your patterns and put them in files. And, you know, I have my stuff from Crochet Vision and from Petite Knit, or not Petite Knit, I'm sorry. That's knitting. Passionate Kelsey. I have a lot of stuff on the knit app, and I really enjoy that app. Now, I do have to pay once a year for it, but I don't think it's that expensive. I'll have to check. But it's definitely an app that I can recommend. You can get the free version, but I'm not sure that you can keep your store patterns and make your own patterns on there, because I can write my own patterns if I want to on there. Let me see here. Where do I need to go? Let's go here. Okay, so for my knit app, and we pay it once a year, it's $20. And it's just a, for me, it's worth it. I don't know that it'd be worth it for everybody, but it's, I need to change my brightness here. How do I do that? Sorry, guys, I'm in the wrong place. It's not what I needed. There it is. Okay, let's see if you guys can see it now, maybe. So the app with the K is the knit app. My journal app, I just keep little notations in there that I need to know. But when I open it up, it brings up like my projects. At the bottom, there's a little thing that says patterns. So I can go there and I can go to my PDF. Let me see here. What do I have? Okay, this is a brand new pattern from Travel Crochet AU, which is Australia. And it's, did I save the picture? Yeah. So this is the pattern tester appreciation. And I always keep that with the pattern, because then I kind of have an idea of how other people have done it. But like I said, I really, really like my knit app and I use it all the time. I'm going to bring my brightness back up. So that's where I'm now storing all my patterns. I'd stored all my knit patterns in there anyways. However, now I'm storing all my patterns in there, my crochet patterns, like everything, because I don't want to lose them again. It wasn't so much the free patterns that I lost, but it was the paid patterns that I lost. And so I ended up having to go back and buy some of them again, which really made me mad. And, you know, again, that's not, how do I say that? I'm not like upset with like the pattern designers or whatever. I just don't understand why they got deleted out of Google, because I used to keep everything in my Google account. And now it's like, well, if it's going to get deleted, I have to put it somewhere where I know it won't get deleted and I'm going to have access to it. Oh, I forgot to tell you that the knit app is more geared towards people that live like in Norway or Finland, kind of that area. That's where the app was designed. And so a lot of because you can actually buy patterns from the knit app. That's where a lot of their pattern designers is kind of in that Norway, Finland, Sweden, kind of in that area. There's a name for it, and I do apologize, but my brain's not working that way today. So I really, really enjoy that app. I'm sorry that you guys are bouncing so much. That's not really helping, is it? Let's see if that will help. Okay, that seems to be a little bit better. And now we're stuck. Okay. Let's take this off real quick. So, like I said, I have a ton of yarn to wind up, and most of it is going to be red. I've got one more ball of this type of this red, and then I'll swap over to the other. Now, the other is the Bernat. I think it's called Bernat Tiny. Bernat Blanket Tiny. It's the thinner Bernat blanket. And that one is so old it has the center pull. So that tells you I've had it for a long time, because they don't do center pulls anymore, and they haven't for quite a while. Although I really do wish that they would pick up the center pull again. Although it would cost more money for them, and they'd probably pass that on to the customers, and I wouldn't necessarily want that. But I would like to be able to buy the Bernat yarn, in a in an actual cake. Now, this one was in a cake, but I tried to use it in a different project. Didn't like it, ripped it out. So that's why I recaked it up. But I do like when things are already in a cake or they're in a cone, unless it's cotton. I do not like using cotton straight from the cone. I actually like to wind the cotton up into a cake and use it that way. Because sometimes when it's on the cone, it kind of likes to stick to itself, which means it's just a little bit harder to use. And I'm all about making things easier for myself to use. What else? Well, I did what I'm not supposed to do, and I went and looked at our animal shelter's website to look at the Lonely Hearts. In the Lonely Hearts section are dogs that are usually older or have a medical problem that makes them harder to get them adopted. And of course, me being me, there's an older dog on there. He's a bigger dog, but he's got a lot of health problems, and he's an old man, and he just needs a retirement home. And if my Humphreys would be nice to him, I would bring that dog home in a heartbeat. But my Humphreys doesn't like other dogs. I mean, he loves Bella, but he really just does not like a lot of other dogs. And the thing is like when we're out for a walk, he's fine. Other dogs are fine. He doesn't particularly like it when they bark at him, but other dogs are fine. But when he's in the yard or he's in the house, it's a completely different situation. And it's, I don't know. He just is not always the nicest dog to have around other people and other dogs, especially when we're in the house and or in the yard, and he feels like he has to protect us. because he can be just a real snot sometimes. And he knows he's not supposed to be like that. However, he still is. And he just can be awful sometimes. And he's a good dog. He listens for the most part. He tries to do what you ask, but he really does get upset with other dogs. And part of it is he wants to be the boss. He's never been the boss at this house, but he really wants to be the boss. And Bella's getting a little bit older, but she can still, not exactly clean as clock, but kind of. And so he still kind of respects that. He'd really like to be the boss all the time, but that's not going to happen while we have Bella, because Bella is definitely more in charge than he is. Just because of who she is. And, you know, she's not scared of like anybody. Where Humphreys is actually scared. That's where a lot of his behaviors have come from. But what's funny is we put his harness and leash on, and he becomes a completely different dog. And so it's like, well, he's going to be wearing his harness and his leash a lot this summer. And I plan on being out front more, maybe not every morning, but I think most mornings. And I plan on having him with me. I think the socialization will do him really good, number one. And number two, it's good company for me. Right now, he's in the kitchen with Mom and Bella. Mom is cooking up some really good smelling chicken and some potatoes, and I don't know what else. And of course, the dogs they got to be right there when you're cooking. Doesn't matter if you're making, like me, cutting up my pickles, or making some pasta, or making some chicken or some vegetables. He's got to be right there. He's so funny because he doesn't like eating vegetables. But if Bella's there and Bella is eating vegetables, well then by God, he's going to eat vegetables too. Even though he doesn't particularly care for them. And he is so jealous sometimes that, you know, if she gets something, he has to have it too. But he's my good boy though. Like, especially at nighttime, he'll stay up with me and hang out with me. During the daytime, he doesn't do that so much, and I wish he would. But that was my Watson. My Watson was my ride or die. He was my dog that was constantly in need of being with me, and I miss that. I miss that relationship that I had with Watson, and I'm not really going to have that with Humphreys. You know, we have a different relationship, and it's not bad, but I miss the Velcro dog. And it's not just the dog it's not so much the dog that I miss, although I do miss Watson and I love him. And I cannot wait to get to the Rainbow Bridge, because I know darn well he's going to be standing there and yelling at me about how late I am. But he was also my first real Velcro dog. Taffy was kind of Velcro, but nothing like Watson. Watson was my boy. And anywhere I went, he wanted to go. And anything I did, he wanted to do. And anything I ate, he wanted to eat. And he just was truly my baby, my Velcro baby. And I miss that relationship. I have for a while. And seeing that dog on the animal shelter's website, and them saying that, he just wants somewhere that he can be with somebody and, just kind of lay around with them and be their Velcro dog and not have to do a whole lot. And I thought, I really wanted to go see him. But you see, if I went and saw him, then I'd want to bring him home. And Mom's not okay with that. And I understand why. Like, I truly do. But that doesn't mean that I don't miss that Velcro dog relationship, because that is honestly the I miss that relationship. I miss the dog, yes, but I miss the relationship that I had with the dog too. Because Humphrey is never going to be my Velcro dog. As much as I love him, and he does like hanging out with me and stuff, but he is not my Velcro dog and never will be. And he's just got a different personality, and I don't move around enough for him. This summer, I think I will be busy enough, hopefully, to kind of keep him entertained. And he, like, the problem is if we could if we could have like a Star Trek beam me up type of thing, he would be so willing to go everywhere with me. He just hates the car. He hates going in the car. And it gives him so much anxiety. And once he figures out that we're going someplace that he's been before and it's not the vets, then he's usually okay. But he definitely, he's definitely my anxiety dog, and Watson had anxiety too, but his anxiety was more separation anxiety, where Humphrey's anxiety stems more from the unknown. What's going to happen? When is it going to happen? How is it going to happen? Where are we going? Why are we going? Because usually once we get there, we're good. It's just the going that's hard, especially in town driving, like that stop and go stuff. He really struggles with that. If we're going on longer drives, he does a little bit better. And, he likes getting out and doing stuff. He just doesn't like being in the car. The car is like really anxiety producing for him. And we've tried a bunch of stuff for him, and it just doesn't seem to work for him right now. That doesn't mean at other times it won't, but right now it's not. And he's kind of at this, he's kind of like out of his teenage years and he's in his early adulthood, but he's still in that, hold my beer type of mentality, rather than the, I got to work tomorrow, so I better not drink anything. He's kind of still in that early adult phase. And so as he ages, things are going to change too, because he just won't have as much energy. But hopefully that won't happen for quite a while. Watson was an old man for a long time, and he was 15, almost 16 years old when he passed. And so hopefully I have quite a bit of time with Humphreys left. But you never know. I mean, we had the young Doxies when I was a little kid. I think Ginger died when she was 5, and Dusty died like the year later. They were litter mates, but they did not live super long. But Watson had a pretty good lifespan, but Doxies can live up into later teens and into the 20s too. So, I really hope that I have a good long time with Humphreys left, but you never know. Ginger fell into these seizures and they couldn't get her out of them, and she passed away. We don't know why the seizures started. They couldn't get them stopped. And that was definitely a rough time, because I broke my arm. Ginger got sick and passed. And then that fall, I fell and broke my leg, ankle, bridge of my foot, and my toes. I don't think I told you guys that story. So when I was 13, I was in 4-H. So the night before the fashion review, Mom and I were hustling around the house trying to get stuff done. And it had been raining and the back door had been left open. So Mom told me to close the door. And I'm sure she told me to clean up the water, but all I did was close the door and I did not clean up the water. So later on, I go running down the stairs and my foot hits the water on the laminated floor. And I fell, and I was not long enough for my butt to hit the back of the stairs and my leg to hit the wall. And so when I fell like that, that's what caused all of those breaks. And when when that happened, I apparently screamed like a wounded animal because the neighbors thought that like a cat or something had been like run over because of the scream was so loud and so not what they were used to hearing. Mom got me up and took me down to the ER. And down at the ER, after they figured out, that it was broken and, how bad it was, and that I needed to see a orthopedist, they wanted to give me a pain shot. And at that time, I was deathly afraid of needles. And so no way in heck was I going to let them give me a shot. And I told Mom, no way did I want a shot. I did not want a shot. And so she didn't let them give me the shot because I didn't want the shot. Well, then we got home and man, that was a really hard night because we couldn't get ahead of the pain. Well, when we finally got ahead of the pain, it was actually a couple days later, but that next morning, I just had to go to the where they were doing the judging, like on your clothes and stuff. So I went to that, but I couldn't just turn my clothes in. I had to actually wear them and model them. And I had just broken my leg the night before. And by God, see, I get things in my head. I'm like my grandma. And then by God, I'm going to do them. And so that time I just had to go and model my clothes because they wouldn't let me put them in the fair unless I did. So I went in and did that and about fell down. And you could really tell that I wasn't feeling good because I was sheet white. But I did what I had to, got out of there. And I did not make I didn't get a good score on my clothing. And a lot of it had to do with I couldn't model. And I couldn't model because I had a broken leg. And that really upset me because I was 13. And all I wanted to do was be part of the fair. Like that was like the biggest thing up until that point. And then a couple of years later, I just was out of it. I was not doing 4-H anymore. I wasn't doing the end of the year stuff. I wasn't doing anything because I felt like, why bother if I'm not going to be able to get what I want or do what I want? Like, why bother? So, yeah, that was like the hard part of my 4-H years. And that night, a couple nights later when they were doing the fashion review, I went and I wore my clothes and I stood up in the audience because that was about all I could handle. And my principal came over and she goes, well, you always did have weak ankles. I was 13 at the time. And yes, I was prone to falling, but we didn't know that I had psoriatic arthritis at the time. There was a lot of stuff going on inside that we didn't know was going on. And for an educator to walk up and say something like that to me was really, it made me feel really bad. Like there was really something wrong with me. And now I know if she said something like that to me today, I'd be like, oh, that's just her. Doesn't matter. But when I was 13, it mattered a whole lot. And I ended up not being able to go back to that school because they would not come because it was a parochial school. they didn't have to accommodate me with my broken leg because I couldn't go up and down the stairs. So, and I didn't want to go to the other school. I wanted to go to that school, but they wouldn't accommodate me. So I had to go to public school. And going to public school was hard after being in the parochial school for a while, because in the parochial school, our classes were really small. And going to, at that time, it was called junior high, but now it's middle high school, or middle school. But back then it was junior high school, was really difficult because I had large classes. I had a bunch of different teachers, and it changed every year. And like, it just was not, I was not used to it, because the year before, when all of my classmates from public school had gone there, I had been in parochial school. And so, yes, I had different teachers and I went to different classes, but it was a smaller amount of teachers, and you could have one teacher for 2 or 3 classes. Like, my math teacher also taught the computer science class. And so, and one of the nuns taught our religious practice class, but then she also took us to cathedral, and she took us to the church. Cathedral was every day down in our little area, and then that they had set up kind of like a church. And then on Thursdays we went to the church. We had to walk to the church, and at that time we were a couple blocks away, but we were closer than they are now because they've moved the school. And I don't believe that they walk the kids over to the church anymore. I think that they have a priest go to the school, just for the safety of the kids, because you can't have them crossing all those busy streets. Even with teachers and TAs or whoever's there now, you can't put the kiddos in danger. And I think our community is becoming more aware of how we have to try and protect children and young folks, because we've had some pretty bad things happen in our communities that were accidents, or I'm going to say accidents that, if things had been different, would not have happened, but they have happened. And I think we're realizing that we have to do things to try and protect the kids from other people, other adults, that maybe aren't paying attention, or are tired or distracted or on drugs or drinking or whatever. Because when you're driving, you don't always realize that the choices you make when you're behind the wheel could cause massive physical and emotional trauma to somebody else. And that's part of the reason why I don't drive anymore, is with the hepatic encephalopathy. My brain is I just don't think fast enough, and I'm not with it enough to be able to drive and not get distracted. And I don't want to get distracted because I do not want to hurt anyone else. I don't want to cause damage to any property, and I do not want to hurt anyone else. And it's just safer to have mom or someone else drive than to have me drive. And yes, that's a choice that I've made, but I think that it's an important one, not only for me, but for my community. Because if I'm out there and I'm distracted driving, there's a pretty high chance that I could cause an accident. I could be in an accident. I could hurt someone, or I could kill someone, and on the low end, maybe just cause property damage. But that property damage is still huge. We know food is going up. We know the cost of building and stuff is going up. And it's not, I don't see it coming down in the near future. I mean, maybe it will, but I don't really see it happening. And so for me, I would rather just not cause harm to anyone or anything. And that was a choice that I made a while ago. Could I still physically drive? Yes. But I'm afraid that I would get distracted and I could hurt someone. And that's not really something that I'm interested in doing. Because I recognize my deficit. Not everybody can recognize when they have deficits. And sometimes admitting that you have those deficits is hard because it can mean a loss of freedom. But when I realized it was time to stop driving, I was lucky. I had someone else that I actually have a couple of people that are, willing to drive me places, and, take me to doctor's appointments and stuff, or when I was working, take me to work. But I was lucky enough that I had that. Not everybody does. And, it was really hard for my grandma to give up driving. I mean, really hard, because it was a loss of independence. And for her, that was really hard because she had lived a certain way a long time, many, many years. And then basically giving up driving was difficult for her to do, but she did do it. But I know for her, it was a loss of freedom. For me, it doesn't feel like a loss of freedom, but I've been dealing with my psoriatic arthritis and my ulcerative colitis and other stuff for so long that not driving didn't feel like a loss to me. It felt like a proactive choice. However, not everybody feels that way. And that's the hard part when you have a chronic illness and then you have other things happening that maybe are related to that chronic illness or another chronic illness. I have quite a few chronic illnesses. And now that they've been diagnosed and we're treating them, it doesn't mean that life ends. When I got my psoriatic arthritis diagnosis, I thought I'd be in a wheelchair like in a year because I was having so many problems. We've, gotten to a point where I'm kind of doing okay. But I still have bad days. I have a wheelchair that if I really need to use it, we can use it. I have a rollator walker that I can use, and I do use. I have a regular walker in the house that sometimes I use. It just kind of depends on if I need to use it or not, because I know the difference. I know when I really need to use a walker and when I don't. And so it's one of those things that if I need it, I have it. I have canes as well. But I have found the walker works better than the canes now, since I have so much stuff going on bilaterally, which is both sides. But like I said, the psoriatic arthritis diagnosis was the hardest one. And then getting the ulcerative colitis one, and then getting my ostomy and having my Barbie butt surgery. Like those three things were hard because I felt the loss of stuff, but I had time to grieve. And now when something happens, it's usually not as bad. Like I had to start a couple new medicines, but they're really helping. And I have been able to lose approximately 30 pounds since the end of December, which for me is huge. It's been very difficult to try and lose weight with everything that's going on, but I have been able to. And I'm really happy with that fact. But I'm also aware that the meds that I'm taking have been assisting with that and helping, like pulling fluid off and helping different organs work a little bit better than what they have been working. So that, a couple of years ago, I would have been more resistant to starting medicine. Heck, last year, I would have been really resistant to it because I was going through a lot of pain and I'd gotten to the point where I could not walk. And I was thinking that we were getting close to the end because of the pain and not being able to like walk to the bathroom and some of that other stuff. So I've made some strides personally and mentally, but also physically. We've been able to deal with a lot of, not all of my physical pain, but we've been able to deal with a lot of it. And not this week, or not next week, but the week after, I think is when I get my injection in my back to help with some of my pain. And then I'm starting physical therapy to help with some of the other pain and see if we can't figure out how to lower that pain and I got to figure out how to sleep differently because I know that that's what's causing the pain. I just don't know how to get my body to do what I need it to do. So that's why I'm going back to physical therapy. And I have a really good relationship with my physical therapist. She's awesome. And she works with me where I'm at. And she's worked with me for many years. Almost 10 years. Next year, it'll be 10 years, I think. No, in 2 years, it'll be 10 years. There we go. No. I started in 2016. Yeah, maybe it was 2017. Anyways, it was either December of 2016 or January of 2017 when I started with them. But I have basically stayed with the same physical therapist, and she knows all the craziness that's going on with my body, and my body likes to not present normally. Like when I had the PE blood clots, it was actually, they call it a saddle PE, but you get one on each side. And so I think I had the first one when I went into the hospital, but they hadn't found it yet. But then in the nighttime, when I couldn't breathe and I was on the toilet, oh, that was so embarrassing. That, I think, was when the second one hit, and they sparked off of a blood clot in my leg that we couldn't really treat because the ulcerative colitis was out of control. And the doctors in town didn't want to put in a VC filter, which actually would have saved me a whole lot of trouble. But they didn't want to do it. So once I got down to Denver, they did put in a VC filter, and it was just long enough for me to have surgery and get rehydrated and kind of bring my health back up a little bit. Because before my surgery, I'd gone basically 2.5, 3 months without eating and drinking. And I'd lost quite a bit of weight, but it was kind of artificial because I just hadn't been eating or drinking. And once I started to eat and drink again, I kind of bounced back up to my baseline. And I'm almost back down to my baseline, which still is too heavy. And I know that. But for many, many years, there was kind of a 10-pound range where I would just naturally just kind of stay in. It didn't matter my amount of like exercising and stuff. I just kind of stayed in the same weight zone. And then after having my ostomy and some of my complications was when my weight went up even more. But now it's coming back down with the new medications and just kind of some of the changes with me. So I'm really happy for that. But I'm not focusing on the number on the scale per se. Well, I am, but I'm not. So what I mean by that is I get weighed once a month by my dietitian nutritionist. And I have been seeing her for, I think, about 4 years now. And so she knows me pretty well. And I get weighed there once a month. And so for me, that's my weight. Yeah, I get weighed at other doctor's offices and stuff, but they use different scales. They're in different places. Like I weigh more in Cheyenne than I do down in Fort Collins because Cheyenne is higher in elevation. So there's more gravity, which sounds weird, but I looked it up and it's actually, it's true. And it's only by like 1.5 pounds, 2 pounds, but there's a difference. And so instead of focusing on all those differences and how, I'm this weight in Cheyenne, I'm that weight down in Fort Collins, and my weight can change based on my hydration level and my sodium level and on my potassium level. Like there's a lot of stuff that can change that, my weight and make it artificially higher or artificially lower. So instead of focusing on all those other weights and numbers, I just focus on the one that my dietitian has, because we use the exact same scale in the exact same place, and we only weigh once a month. And so that's the only one that I worry about. Or I guess I shouldn't say worry, but that's the only one that I care about. The other ones, like I log them, but I don't really pay a whole lot of attention to them, because I know that particular one, because it is for like weight loss and weight loss surgery and stuff. That particular one is calibrated and it's taken care of. It's in the same spot every time. And I know I can trust that one. The one in it's like the one in the ER from Saturday kind of had me depressed because it had me up by 10 pounds. And I'm going, I don't think that's right, but it could be, but I don't really think it's right. But then when I went in and got weighed, by my dietitian nutritionist this week, I was actually less than what I thought I was going to be. And like my goal isn't to lose like a specific amount of pounds like each month or each week or anything like that. It's to concentrate on like protein and concentrate on trying to not trying to feed myself when I'm hungry, but not feed myself when I'm not. To recognize when I'm tired or I have something else going on that, I want to eat, but I'm not actually hungry. Because when that's going on, I need to clue into that so that I'm taking better care of myself. And, we have a lot of different goals that we're working on, but I say that because a lot of people like focus on the number on the scale. And, in some respects, that's kind of important, but sometimes what we forget is that muscle weighs more than fat. A pound of muscle is leaner than a pound of fat, but it as you're losing weight and you're trying to build muscle strength, you're also going, as you lose weight, you can also, it sounds weird, but you can kind of also gain weight because you're building that muscle up, and that muscle for that area may weigh more than the fat in that area did. And I learned something about fat that's around the organs, and that, obviously someone like me because I'm obese, tends to have a lot of like weight or that visceral fat around the organs. But that there's also a lot of people that are very skinny that have the same problem, because that type of fat is created by, it doesn't have, it's not created by caloric intake. It's tied to hormones and inflammation. And so if you deal with a lot of inflammation, like chronic diseases and inflammatory diseases, like I do, it makes you more prone to make more of that. And that there's, I can't remember what the other type of fat is, but that one is based off of, you lose that one based basically off of a caloric deficit. But when it comes to the visceral fat, you can be in a massive caloric deficit and still not be able to get rid of it. And it's triggered by high stress levels and inflammation, which makes sense because the inflammation that my disease processes have created have caused the damage to my liver. And so that's inflammation from the psoriatic arthritis and the inverse psoriasis. It's inflammation rates from the GI tract, from the UC, and now from my ostomy bleeding. It's from the PCOS and anxiety and depression and PTSD and some of the other stuff that's going on. It all works hand in hand to increase. A lot of it is caused by an increase of inflammation, but it also causes more inflammation because the body is like, oh, we need to fix that. And usually when your body wants to fix something, it's going to send fluid and inflammation to that area to heal it. But when you have an inflammatory process going on top of an autoimmune disease, the body doesn't know when to stop. And so sometimes the body like goes into overload, and it's basically attacking itself because there's already inflammation there, and it sends more inflammation. And then it says, oh, I got to send more and I got to send more. And that it's a vicious cycle, and it's very difficult to get out of that cycle. And I know with the chronic hepatitis that I have, along with the psoriatic arthritis and the gut stuff that's going on, plus now that I have diabetes, like that all increases your inflammation rates. And to try and keep them low is hard. There are some things that can help, like walking, lowering your stress levels, doing things that make you feel calmer. So yeah, there's a lot that goes into having like autoimmune diseases and treating them and living with them. But I thought that it was interesting that there's two types of fat. And I think they're even I think there's even colors to them, but don't quote me on that. But I just thought it was really interesting because the body really does think it's protecting itself, right? When you're collecting visceral fat, why is it doing that? Well, the more fat that you have around your organs, the warmer you can stay in the wintertime, as well as you have more to fall back on if you suddenly don't have food to eat. You have more resources. Like there's reasons for why your body does what it does. But in modern times, what it's doing is not protective anymore. It's more harmful, especially like living in the United States and having access to different types of food, but also like some of the processed stuff, some of the not processed stuff, as well as the amounts that we can eat. Like you go to like a Cracker Barrel and you sit down, and all that food versus what like a portion size really is way different. And I think other countries try to stay a little bit more portion controlled versus what we do in the United States. But it's been an interesting, like, I love YouTube because you can learn so much off of YouTube. And I do like the save later function, because if I like a tutorial, or I like Melly Inspired Crochet, sometimes she'll do kind of like a pattern review, and I'll save those on my personal YouTube, because this is my professional YouTube, not my personal YouTube. And on my personal YouTube, like, I will save stuff on there that I want to go back and re-listen to or get names off of. And I did start watching a new YouTuber. And I'm going to pull up her name here real quick if I can. Oh dear, what's she called? I know what to do. Switch here to this one. It is okay. So her channel is called Jan Deere _ living _ life. And I really enjoy listening to her. She is pretty down to earth. She does knitting and crochet. She has a blanket that she's working on, a hexagon blanket that she's going to turn into a square. And I'm going to tell you, like, that is a beautiful blanket that she's working on. I know that she's following when she's that she is following a pattern, but I do apologize because I don't remember what the name of, well, I probably can figure it out. Let me go back here. Here it is. There's another channel that she promoted that has a lot of tutorials and a lot of awesome stuff on it. And that one is called Gum Leaf Crochet and Yarn. And I believe that that lady is down in Australia. And I believe her name, the other lady that I just talked about, Janice, she's at Jan Deere _ living _ life. I believe that she's up in Manitoba, Canada. I might be wrong on that, but she is in Canada. But I don't remember which province she's in. Her videos tend to be a little bit shorter, but she is pretty interesting. I do like what she's working on. She is just started a new crochet bag, and I don't think I'll be making it anytime soon. However, I do have to say that it is absolutely gorgeous. She's making a flower bag for herself that's going to be her kind of like her self-wellness, self-care bag. And I thought that was a great idea. I'm kind of thinking about something like that for this summer to put out. But I don't have that plan formulated just yet. But I do like what she's doing. And she did say she was following a tutorial. But I really liked the colors that she picked and kind of how she put stuff together. It doesn't look as random as some people try to make them look. And so you could tell that it had a story in it for her. And I really did like her latest live. I didn't get to watch it live because of all the sleeping I've been doing, but I did get to watch it today. And I do recommend that if you are looking for someone new to follow, I think she's awesome. She has about 100 subscribers, and she is just nice and easy to listen to. Sometimes when you're like listening to like Crochet Vision or some of the other people that I listen to, they get a little intense, like I get a little intense. And I don't mind that, but I know that some people don't like to listen to all of that intensity. So it just kind of depends on what you like to listen to, but I really have been enjoying her. Um, the other thing that I've been enjoying is just listening to Mayday. I haven't seen all the episodes, but I've seen most of the episodes. And I like to just put on their live, because every day they have something live going. And I do actually like just listening to that. Because sometimes I don't even have to listen to it. Because I'll have it on mute. I can see what's going on, and I already know what the storyline is, and I know what caused the accidents because I've already seen it. And then if I haven't seen it, I'll turn the volume back on and listen to, whatever I haven't seen, because I do know that there's some stuff on there that I haven't seen, but most of it I have actually seen. But I still enjoy listening to it. I like listening to how they come up with their answers. And in their investigations, what they're looking at, they're not just trying to figure out what happened, but they're trying to figure out what happened, why it happened, and how to make sure it doesn't happen again. And I think that logical process of how you make something safer, how you take an accident and then you make life safer for everyone else, is really interesting. Not that, I want anybody to be hurt or anyone to die or any family to have to go through that, but listening to how they have taken an accident and made things safer for everyone else is really something that for me is interesting. It's kind of like watching crime shows when you know that they've already solved it, and the person that did it is in prison or has passed away or whatever. I like that kind of stuff, especially when they take something. The crime shows take, something from 30, 40, 60 years ago. I think the longest one back that they've been able to solve is like 70 years with the family DNA stuff, or genetic DNA, I'm sorry. But I really enjoy that. I think that's really interesting, how they work that together to figure out who they're looking for. I think that's really interesting. I think that it's pretty cool that we have that technology. I know some people don't like that technology because what if it could be abused? And I get that, because that is a worry. What if stuff starts to be abused against the public? But I don't think that right now that's how that's being used. And I really enjoy how they can solve something now that they weren't able to solve when it happened. But because we keep cases open and we keep the evidence and we keep things going, that, if it's a murder case, it never dies. It may be a cold case, but it doesn't actually die. And the cold case units are able to go back and solve stuff. Like here in town, we had a shooting many years ago during Cheyenne Frontier Days. And last year they were able to solve the case and put the gentleman, well, he was arrested. I don't know that he's been convicted yet, but he was at least arrested. And so now the public kind of has that reassurance that we kind of know what happened, and we know the person that committed the crime is sitting in jail. At least I don't think he's in prison yet. But they were able to solve that case, which I think is awesome. There's another case in town that I really wished that they could look at, but I don't know if they have the resources for. And I guess the only reason why I'm interested in it is because it was kind of the first like murder case that I was really aware of when I was in high school. This gentleman with his kid in his car was shot and killed on not the busiest street, but one of the busiest streets in town, on our south side. And so I really wished that one could be solved for the family and for the community, because that was the first one that felt almost like a gang had done. Whether it was or wasn't, I don't know. It has not been solved yet. But that's the one that for me is really something that has stuck with me all these years, because I graduated high school in 2002. And this happened, I think it happened in 01, but was it 20? I think it happened in 2001. But it was something that I definitely took to heart, because we had this one class, or I had this one class where we were supposed to read newspapers. It was kind of like a study hall, but not really a study hall, because it was only for I think we were in there for 15 or 20 minutes. We weren't in there very long. And we read the newspapers every day. And so we read about that shooting, and that just, it stuck with me. It was kind of the first time that I was really aware of gun violence in town, per se. I remember that we had someone that was killed out at the toy store in the mall when I was younger. But I don't know if the victim was shot or if they were stabbed. But I do remember that, but I don't remember the details of it. However, this one with the young man that was murdered, and his son was in the car with him when it happened, that has just really stuck with me. And I really wish that could be one of those ones that, could be solved with genetic DNA, and they could find the perpetrator, and, if the perpetrator is still alive, maybe prosecute them. And if not, then at least give the family the knowledge that whoever did this can't hurt anyone else. I mean, because I think that's what the families and the communities would want, or at least as a community member, I think that's what I want to know, is that the person that hurt someone in our community can't do it again. Especially when it's something that might have been premeditated. Whether that one was or not, I don't know. At school and stuff, there was always a lot of rumors about what might have happened or what probably happened, because Southside was considered kind of the bad side of town. And, it's not necessarily a bad side of town at all. It's just not as affluent as the north side of town is. And there's, I've had a lot of friends on the south side. A lot of the people I went to school with lived on the south side. But unfortunately, at my high school, you had the rich kids, and then you had kids from the south side. And you had a few of us that were from the avenues, but there weren't very many of us at that time. And most of the kids were either from out north or from south side. And being someone who lived in the middle, I had the luxury of going to the school that had the best computers and, had a ton of good stuff, just because of the affluent neighborhoods it was in, that it served, versus the other high school that didn't have as much as my high school did. And but I didn't have the stigma of coming from Southside. And I was one of those weird kids. I read all the time. Um, and if I wasn't reading, I was writing my own stories for myself. And I just was a weird kid growing up, and I'm a weird adult too. Like the weirdness never went away. And when I was younger, I really worried about that, and now it's like it's just who I am. And I kind of feel bad because there was one person that I think was looking for a friend, and we'd gone to school at the parochial school, and I think we went to high school together too. And then we saw each other years later when I was in college, because I went to college later. And I think she wanted to talk and have a friend. And I was so scared. This is going to sound stupid, but I was so scared to talk to her that I kind of ran away. And now I kind of feel bad, and I wish that I had had the confidence to be able to talk to her and be friends with her, or at least be nice to her. And it wasn't that I was trying to be mean, but I had really bad social anxiety. And seeing someone from my high school days was not, for me, it was triggering. It was not, I wanted to pretend that high school didn't really happen. And now it's like, I don't really care. I am who I am. I'm not going to be some million bajillionaire or anything like that. I'm just me. And I'm doing the best that I can. And I figured that most people are just doing the best that they can with what they've got. And, I think back then she probably was too. But I was very intimidated and scared of talking to her and having her know what I was doing, and that I'd gone to college much later than most of my peers, which now it's like, who cares? But I'm 41, and I know that my ticket to the afterlife is going to get punched earlier than most, and I'm okay with that. And so I look at things different. And yes, there's some things that I wish I could change, but it's not like a true regret where I feel like, oh, my life is so bad because I didn't do X, Y, or Z, or I did X or Y or Z or whatever. I don't really have like big time regrets like that. And I guess I say that because I feel like I'm an old person. I don't feel like a 41-year-old living in an 81-year-old's body. I feel like I'm in my 80s, and my body finally reflects that. Because I had someone tell me that I was living in an 80-year-old's body. And it was like, well, that's how old I've kind of felt like I was most of my life. Even as a kid, I felt like I was an old person. But I know that there are, that I have issues, and that no one's perfect. And I don't look for perfection anymore. I used to try and chase perfection when I was younger. Not that I really knew what that meant, but I was trying. And I think that comes from my grandma and her expectations. But now I just don't worry about that stuff. And the main reason that I don't worry about it is because I don't have to. I used to worry that I would have regrets, or that I would miss out on things. And now I've lived my life the way that I, to some extent, the way that I wanted to. And I just don't feel like big time regret for anything. Are there things that could have been different? Yeah, but they weren't. And you can't go back and change them now. And so all I can do is like try to be more calm and look to the future, and just recognize that no one's perfect. And once I kind of started realizing that no one's perfect and everybody's just trying to do the best that they can with what they've got, that really helped me not focus so much on what I've done wrong or what I said wrong. I used to really worry about that and ruminate about, what I'd done wrong or what I'd said wrong. And it doesn't mean that doesn't still happen, but I do it less. And I still have to talk through things with mom. Like one night I was tired, I was hungry. She was really tired, and something had happened on her phone, and she just needed a little bit of help. And I yelled at her. And then the next morning I had to apologize because I recognized that she was too tired with her dyslexia to be able to understand what the text message said. I was way out of patience and hungry, and that wasn't her fault. And I didn't need to yell at her about what was going on, but I did. And so I had to apologize. And I felt like it was important enough. And so I apologized, and the next day, and then a while later, I apologized again. And I still kind of feel bad about that because I don't want to yell at my mom. I don't want to treat my mom badly. And I'm trying to recognize things in myself that affect my mood. And one of the big things is if I'm hungry or if I'm tired or if I'm hurting. Like if something like that is going on and I can take care of it, I'm a much nicer person afterwards. And I try really hard I try to recognize that stuff so I don't take it out on somebody else, because the person that's with me all the time is mom. And so she's the person that I would take it out on. And I don't want to do that. So I just try to be aware of some of that stuff now. I got buzz going everywhere. Oh, we got a knot. Okay. But I was a weird child in high school, and I'm still a weird person as an adult. But I've embraced being weird and different. And I'm happiest being able to do things that I really enjoy. My crocheting, sometimes my knitting. I try not to doom scroll. I still do it sometimes, but I try to put my phone down and do something else rather than doom scroll like on social media. And the main reason that I do that is so that I have more time to crochet or do things that I want to do. Because if I get into the habit of doom scrolling, then I spend too much time like on my phone and not enough time focusing on what I want to do or what I want to get done. So this is my last ball that I need to cake up. I think, yeah. So thank you so much for sticking with me and hanging in there. I know this has been a long one, but thank you for listening to me yabber along while I get stuff caked up so it's ready to make stuff out of. This has been an enjoyable day for me. I hope that you've been able to get some work in on your project or been able to have some relaxing time for yourself. I got another knot. You'd think since they're all balled up that they would not have knots in them, but that's not true. They tend to have a lot of knots. Especially the older Bernat stuff that I have. I tend to find that it's, I have a lot of knots with it. Okay, let's try it. But like I said at the top of the show, or at the top of this live, this week I'm going to be changing my name on all of my social media platforms. So on YouTube, on Instagram, on TikTok, Blue Sky, and I think I'm going to be posting stuff on Facebook. So I think I will get stuff going there as well. But it's going to show up as Hot Dog Crochet. That's my business name. It's what I'll be using, I think, from here on out, unless things change. I do have a new logo that I'm working on. I'm almost done with it, so I think I will be getting that up this week as well. You should see the new logo and the new name by Thursday. I'm hoping by Wednesday's video, but if not, definitely by Thursday's live. And again, I'm going to have to make a post about when I'm going to go live on YouTube on Thursday. I will be doing that in the afternoon or evening time on Thursday. But I'm not too sure what time. I'll have to let you guys know. And then I think that Saturday and Thursdays will be my regular live days. And then Wednesday is going to be my video day. I think that's how I'm going to work it, because I wanted to put in another live, and I think that Thursdays will generally work as a live day in the evening, afternoon or evening. But again, I'll have to let you know the time on that. And once I have that set, I will let you guys know in a post. In case you missed it, I did want to show you the octopus that I made. So this is like the crying or sad face. And this is the happy face. It's called the mood octopus. And I've made some more of these. I just need to sew them together. In the original pattern, it does call for some stuffing, but I didn't use any stuffing, and it stands up really well on its own between the two layers of the Bernat blanket. And I think that it worked out really, really well. I don't like sewing, but it's not that hard to sew it together. So I should have a few more possibly by Thursday's live. I'm definitely going to have a water dragon to show you guys. But I think that that's going to be my Wednesday video for you guys, is me making that particular water dragon. What else? Oh, I am working on a new baby blanket. I'm using these older Premier Parfait layers. This is the color scheme that I'm using. I have 3 cakes. One's partially used in the blanket, and then I have 2 more that are going to go on the blanket. It should make it a pretty decent size. What else? I think that's about it. But I'll let you guys know probably on Thursday how I like the Amazon yarn and if it really stacks up well against the Bernat blanket. Price-wise, it's definitely better than the Bernat blanket, especially for the yardage, because you're talking about an extra like 200 yards on a cone like this versus the large balls that I've just caked up. Now, what I have noticed, just from opening, is that it does feel slightly thinner. Not as thin as like a Posh, Big Twist Posh. A little bit, just slightly thinner than the Bernat blanket, but it's definitely soft. It's definitely less expensive per yard than buying the Bernat blanket. And I think Bernat blanket is going up in price again, or at least that's kind of what it looks like from some of the online retailers. The one thing that I did not like about this particular yarn is that depending on the color, the price changed. And I don't particularly care for that. But yard for yard, this is less expensive than the Bernat. So again, I'll let you know on Thursday, I think, how I like it and how it works up. I think that it might, because I haven't used it yet, that it might be a better product price-wise to use for plushies than the Bernat blanket. But like I said, I'll be making some bees. I'll probably make some frogs, and I will probably be talking about this in my next live. And I'll let you know. I'll put a link and stuff to Amazon after I've tried it out and make sure that it's kind of worth the money. But yes, that's the plan for Thursday. My video for Wednesday should be about making a water dragon. And then Thursday should be about this yarn. And probably next Saturday, we'll do probably another crochet along. I might be working on a crab by then, because I've been itching to do a Charlie the Crab by Crochet Vision. She has that on her Etsy and on her website, crochetvision.com. So if you want to check her out, that's awesome. If you want to check out Gender, I talked about her earlier. I'm so sorry. I'm going to have to make a note and make sure that I add her in the description for next time. But yeah, so I will talk to you guys later because I have now caked up all the yarn I wanted to cake up. So I kind of need to clean up my mess again. And I will talk to you guys. Well, I'll post my video for Wednesday, and then I will talk to you guys on Thursday. See you guys later. Have a good week, and be kind to yourself. Remember, you are wanted, you are needed, you are loved. Be kind to everyone, including yourself. The world is hard enough. Let's not make it any harder. Bye.